Thank you so much for joining us. This is Business Day. On the program tonight, we look at issues of competition. What is healthy competition and what repercussions do competition pose when it is not carried out properly? Gold mining in Zambia receiving a lot of mixed feelings when it comes to those getting into it and those trying to get into the gold mining industry. Employment issues when it comes to the repercussions that COVID-19 has posed to Zambia's economy. Job losses, yes. Job creations, yes. But what about the other side, the employer side of things? How are they feeling about this? And it is the 2020 crop marketing harvest. Recently, the Minister of Mines did say we have a bumper harvest. But does this bumper harvest translate to make sure that there is a variety of crops and food on the Zambian plate? We'll be getting to know more about this on the program. This is Business Day and I am Judy Ngulube. We start off the show with the effect that COVID has had on Zambia's employment landscape. Obviously, the job losses are inevitable. A lot of sectors of Zambia's economy have been affected, but this does not mean there's no other side of the story to this. There's good news. There's been some creation of employment as well. Let's get to one of the sectors that was looking like it's coming up in Zambia's economy. When it comes to the fitness arena, we've seen that the gyms and the health sector has also improved in making sure that the ripple effect of not only offering a health service, but also being lucrative is one of those. Let's see how this sector has been affected.
The closure of gyms following the outbreak of COVID-19 has severely affected the fitness industry. This is one of the affected gyms in Lusaka's Salama Park. It reopened on Monday after shutting down 2 months ago. And the last 2 months have not been the best because gym employees have had to stay home without salaries. Some will not be returning to work.
Because obviously as a company you can't go beyond a certain line and limit of credit. So we had to let go of 4 people, but right now we have 11 staff that we're maintaining.
A few kilometers away is another gym which closed after 3 months of being in operation.
Basically the last 3 months we haven't had any income. So as a small entrepreneur, loss of business, and also in the last 3 months, I've been paying my workers. At least I've been giving them something just to help them sustain themselves as we wait for reopening.
Since COVID-19 emerged, Sebastian Chipako has been home and on half salary.
Making ends meet in terms of day-to-day needs like rentals and groceries and utilities and other costs. It was a bit of a challenge.
Only 40 people are allowed in the gym at a given time, and the owners are doing all it takes to keep the gym safe. Efim Pande, ZMBC News, Lusaka.
Thank you so much for still staying with us. We've seen how employment cuts have happened in that sector, but there's also another side to this. Those are the employees. But what about the employer? How are they coping in this era of COVID? How are they making sure that they stay afloat in this era where they have to make job cuts, where they have to make sure that their business entities are surviving? I am glad that I have Mr. Harrington Chibanda. He is the Executive Director of the Zambia Federation of Employers. How are you? Thank you so much and welcome to Business Day.
Thank you very much. I'm very fine and I'm happy to be here.
All right. We've heard a lot of stories when it comes to people losing their jobs, people not making the same money that they were making via their salaries. But what about the employer end of things? How is the employer coping in this era of COVID?
Well, it has not been easy, actually very difficult. First, the issue of having workers to work from home has come with its own challenges. Now, what are those challenges? It means that if workers are working from home, it means that our online system has to be perfect. But we've experienced a lot of connectivity challenges. Not only that, but also we've experienced situations of certain software programs, employees not being very well versed with those programs, IT programs which can make them effective to be able to work. For instance, it has now become common that we do virtual meetings. Now, to do virtual meetings, we are talking of using some programs, either Zoom, Skype, and any other. Now, you'll find that to do that, you really have to have a perfect internet connectivity. But if you don't have it, then it becomes a challenge. So what that means is that first, to enable the employees, even just have the bundles for the internet, the employer has to spend, because that cost cannot be given to the employee. It should be borne by the employer. That is one thing. But also the devices themselves that are being used. Is it every employee out there who's got a proper device that can be used when it comes to working online? There is a challenge. Even the smartphones at times, they can fail. They can fail you when you want to connect. So that is a challenge, meaning therefore that productivity levels have actually suffered, that we are not able to produce as expected. We are not meeting the targets at the right time, and also in terms of quantities. So that is a challenge. But other than that, there's also the issue of the cash flow. Because, I mean, as you are all aware, that most of the businesses that we do in Zambia, we have not so much developed local markets. We've depended so much on external markets. And so when things boomerang out there, it means that they have a negative impact on our businesses. So meaning therefore that our cash flows have actually gone down. We are not able to actually make ourselves as projected. Monthly targets are not being met. We can't even meet the quarterly targets. Now, that again brings in a challenge now of managing to meet the administrative expenses of a business. Not only salaries, but all other expenses. I mean, if you look at our electricity tariffs now, they are quite high. And while the COVID is hitting, the electricity tariffs are high, there's load shedding. So you have to manage all those situations. And that has not really come very easily to the employers. At the same time, you find that prior to the COVID, employers had borrowed from the banks, but had also gotten certain goods and services on credit so that they'll be able to pay after a certain period of time. So that ability to have the money, thank God there are some banks that have given some flexibility where they've waived the interests on the loans or overdrafts, but they'll still need the payment towards the principal. But there are those suppliers of these businesses who also need some money. But now they go to company A where they supplied and they need to be paid. Company A is saying, unfortunately, our cash flow is not favorable. So that now has a reaction effect in the value chain, that every business is actually, I would say, it's survival of the fittest.
Wow, when you hear all those, it's like almost hand to mouth for most business entities in this era. But when the employee is also expecting that the company could have had a reservoir of some money kept somewhere, how then does the employer and the employee meet somewhere halfway? Is it possible even?
Yeah, that's the challenge which is there. This is why initially in March we met as the tripartite partners to try and see how do we manage the labor market, the relationship between employer-employee, vis-a-vis issues of ability to pay the salaries. I'm sure you heard that the Minister of Labor did announce that we had agreed on aspects of evoking Section 48 of the Employment Code Act, which provides for sending workers on forced leave but maintain them on a basic pay. I think it was only yesterday that I saw a clip of our Minister of Labour issuing a statement that she has received so many applications from employers who are desiring to place employees on forced leave without pay. So it is coming from that aspect of employers not doing the business which they've always been doing, being able to have enough revenue to be able even to maintain the employees on the payroll. So that is where it is coming from. But then you start asking a question of, so how are these employees then going to survive? Because that's the question. So if the employer who employed them is saying, no, I don't have money to even manage to pay you a basic pay, go home and stay, I've got little and nothing. It's really hard times for our...
I have been talking to Mr. Harrington Chibanda. He is the executive director when it comes to the issue of the Federation of Employers, seeing how the angle of COVID-19 is affecting the employer as we discuss employment issues on Business Day. Thank you so much for still watching Business Day. We now get to the 2020 crop harvest. Recently, the Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Michael Katambo, did say that we have a bumper harvest, and this is definitely good news. All crops have improved their yields, not only the maize grain, which is most popular in Zambia, but 100% increment for crops such as potatoes. Also, sunflower has seen an increase, and soybean as well. But when it comes to crop marketing in our country, it always raises eyebrows, as well as setting a price, variety of prices for different players of crops on the market, especially the maize. So FRA and the government announced their price, which is set at 110 kwacha. But this has been received with mixed feelings. But then there's also an argument that Zambia is a free market economy. How should this affect the other players or the farmer himself out there? On Morning Live, we did host a variety of stakeholders who are involved in agriculture. The Zambia Cooperatives Federation, ZCF Executive Director, Mr. James Chirwa, says that the focus should not be on who has placed what price for which crop, but should be on actually increasing the production of the farmer. This is what he had to say.
We have said the 110 is all right, but I think our point has remained at stating that as a country we should not worry much about the price of maize. That is not the most important element of evaluating the performance of the agricultural sector. I think what we should be talking about is how can we help the small-scale farmers to improve their yields. Once the yields start improving to getting to save 5 tons in a hectare, then the issue of price will not arise, because it means that the revenues that are going to be received by these small-scale farmers will start improving. I think it's everybody's preoccupation to try and reduce the poverty levels in the rural area. Now, how do we reduce the poverty levels in the rural area if production remains at 1.5 to 2 tons per hectare, when in fact you can produce up to 15 tons in a hectare? But I know that it's unreachable for a small-scale farmer to produce 15 tons. But I know also that a small-scale farmer can get 6 tons, can get 5 tons when they manage their farming activities efficiently.
And still on agriculture, the Millers Association of Zambia and the grain traders seem to have concerns for the farmers' welfare and how the marketing should be done in making sure that maximum utilization of both the farmer as well as the crops that they are producing reach the Zambians. And this is also going to talk about issues of how this grain and other crops are leaving the country. Borders closed, borders open. What is happening on that vein? We spoke to both the Millers Association of Zambia as well as the Grain Traders Association.
One thing that we need to also appreciate is that the cost of production varies from region to region. Let's take, for example, I think the cost of a farmer that is producing maize in Southern Province would definitely be different, totally different from a farmer on the copper belt in Mpongo, where I come from. It could be cheaper in Mpongo, it could be higher in the Southern Province. So when we look at all these things, this is why probably if I'm offering a farmer on the copper belt 110 and their cost is 90 kwacha, they'll be happy. So, but a farmer in Southern Province will not be happy. And this is where the policy of crop diversification comes in. What I'm saying is that if we have to talk about food security at household level, it means that we need to promote competitive crops that the farmers have to grow. If I'm a farmer in Southern Province, am I better going into livestock, keeping goats, so that at the time I'm harvesting or I'm selling the goat, I can trade with a farmer from Mpongwe who is growing maize? So that is how I define food security. It is to produce crops that are competitive.
Mostly the farmers are abused not by bigger traders. It's the guys we call the briefcase traders. They're those people that are smart and smooth. They go in with cash, still to buy maybe at 80 kwacha, 90 kwacha. Then they'll come and sell to a trader or a miller at higher price. So that's the way, this is where the price distortion starts from. And this is why we say always, in the extension services that government does provide, if they do sufficiently, they should add the issue of marketing.
So maybe we should look at the issue of why the farmers are going to these briefcase buyers.
The only reason is that they go there with money, cash. They pay cash. FRA will sell, but it will take a longer time to pay. So that creates a challenge. And us as grain traders, we always believe to say that it's better you pay a farmer promptly for the reason that he has invested his sweat and he has to be rewarded immediately. We don't pay someone after 1 year. That doesn't make sense.
Thank you so much for still watching Business Day. Mining has been one of Zambia's most lucrative income when it comes to getting revenue for Zambia's economy. But this is only seen in terms of copper. But most recently, gold has been added to that. Now, this has also brought a variety of opinions and variety of players on the market. This has been received with a lot of mixed feelings as well. But Business Day did catch up with ZCCMIH Public Relations Manager, Loisa Kakoma, and this time she featured on Morning Live talking about percentages, who is taking which stake, which entities are involved, and what are some of the misconceptions that have been going on when it comes to the issue of gold mining.
Formed a special purpose vehicle, two special purpose vehicles. Number one is the same Consolidated Gold Company Zambia, and it was formed between Kama and ZCCMIH. Kama has 55% and ZCCMIH has 45%. Now, the question is, most people are saying, and what we have heard is that we went out there looking for investment or for an investor. Kama was already in the country since 2016 and doing their feasibility studies on the ground to see where they can set up the gold processing plant. At the time that they came to us, that they were encouraged to partner with a local through the ministries when they were applying for mineral processing license, they came to approached ZCCMIH, that is last year, early last year, and we started having the conversation with them in terms of partnership, and hence our negotiation in buying into the program, buying into the project that was already underway, and we negotiated for 45%. But this is there's certain things that we've put around in the agreement that are more enhanced than existing portfolio where we have. For instance, the same 45%, we'll be able to increase that stake and own the business entirely 100% after 5 years.
But Zambia is uncomfortable with you having 45% shares in this arrangement. They would rather you have the majority because, I mean, you are the owners of the gold.
We understand and hear the concerns of the majority Zambians that are talking, but remember that this particular investment is just one of the other investments that ZCCMH is undertaking, and particularly through ZCCM Gold, which we own 51% and 49% by the Ministry of Finance, and so ZCCM Gold is 100% owned by government, and this SPV is the one charged with the sole responsibility of managing the activities in the gold sector, and this is throughout the entire value chain. So we are not only investing with Kama through this SPV Consolidated Gold Company, we are also undertaking various investments within the gold sector. We know about Kasenseli, we are there. We are not with CGCZ, but it's ZCCM Gold which is investing and will be mining and processing the gold from that mine. We are also investing in Rufunsa. We are applying for a mining license that will be wholly owned by ZCCM Gold. So this is not the only investment that we have. It is one of the investment that we are taking as a step into getting a footing into the gold processing. And remember that Consolidated Gold is solely into gold processing and not into gold mining or explorations.
That item there wraps up Business Day for today. Thank you so much for having joined us. Join us again next week, Thursday, for more information on Zambia's economy, entrepreneurship, and the corporate news.